All right, I'll go ahead and call to order the town council meeting for November 14th, 2024. We'll begin with a moment of silence. Amen. All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Scott makes the motion. Craig seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, I need to get a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Scott makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Do we have an attorney report? All right, then we'll move on to the old business. Last month we talked about changing the noise ordinance, and there were a few things we want to change, so Linda, I think, got that taken care of for us. I'll let her.
So it took on new life a little bit, when we started looking at it. And so the first ordinance that you have there is an amendment to 24-9, which is part of the nuisance ordinance. So all that one does, is basically say that it's a misdemeanor, and it's gonna point you then to the regular noise ordinance, which is gonna be the new 23. So 24 just points to the new one, which is 23. So that's the next one in your packet. So it grew because there were no definitions in kind of what we were doing before. So this is a lot more robust, and as far as going into what qualifies as noise, and so if you go down, it's all definitions till you get to section 4, and that's when it's unlawful for any person or entity between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. to make, cause, or allow any noise from a source within his or its ownership or control that is plainly audible in the interior of a sealed dwelling within a residential area. So if you can hear the noise within your home that is windows closed and doors shut, then that's considered the noise, as long as it's not an exception, which is on the next page. So there's certain alarms and public safety vehicles, and weather alerts, all that kind of stuff that's not applicable to those hours. But that's the noise curfew for everybody. And then there is then section 6 goes into the commercial landscaping and construction delivery vehicles. And that was between 7 a.m. or it's only allowed between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. None on Sunday, none on legal holidays. So that's your commercial that we talked about last time. And then in section 8, there is a section for if there is some specific reason, maybe there's a business that's doing something outside of those hours that might be heard in a residential area or whatever, they would have the opportunity to come to council and tell you what's going to go on and get a variance from those times. Not like a zoning variance, but a variance to the noise curfew times. And it just goes into what that is, and then enforcement of it. So in section 9 is your enforcement. So it's a little longer, but it's sections 4 and 6 that we talked about last time. The rest of it is all definitions, exceptions, and process for variance and enforcement. So it was a little too long to shove it into the nuisance ordinance, so that's why it became its.
So our ordinances kind of contemplated the addition of things because it goes to 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. So we had a spot to put it. The one that we had done, I guess, last month was just, it was amending what was already in 24 to say noise, but it didn't define another, noise that disturbs a reasonably prudent person. So what does that mean, right? So, and what the first ordinance basically does then is just cross-reference it for purposes of being in the violations offense. But other than that, the violations are self-contained within what will now be chapter 23, and then this gives it a lot more parameters, notice provisions, or it's not like a gotcha moment where suddenly somebody sort of, well, I would never thought that violated the noise ordinance. Well, so more specific. If I'm remembering correctly, it's basically only noise that's outside the dwelling house. So it's, activities that, would be reasonably considered to disturb the surrounding area, not just somebody got too loud sporting.
Yeah, and things like sporting events, things at school, those are all.
So it should not apply to stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, emergency,
Right.
Vehicles, et cetera. Fire alarms, that sort of thing. It's section 5 covers that.
Correct.
Looks very reasonable. I'd say.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, we'll probably need 2 motions,
Yeah,
one to amend and one to adopt.
right. So there are 2 ordinances. So
Okay.
So we'll take a motion to amend chapter 24-9.
Mhm.
Scott makes that
Second it.
motion. Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right, and then, Scott makes the motion that we adopt.
Yeah.
New 23.
The new ordinance 23, the second,
Second.
Jimmy seconds, all in favor. Unanimous, all right. Fairly painless. For us, not for Linda.
It was well written.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah. It looks good.
Thank you for not yelling at us and abiding by this. All the pain that you went through.
There's an exception for interior.
That was under that section too, wasn't it?
I particularly like this ordinance because Linda wrote it, sent it to me. I looked at it and said, boy, this looks good.
And then send us an invoice.
A smaller invoice than it would have been.
Definitely. Definitely. Hang on. Let my phone down just a little bit. All right, so next item on the agenda, new business. We, last year, the state legislature passed a statute mandating that all, local governments had to supply, insurance for PTSD being suffered by any first responder. So this is firefighters, EMS, police, sheriff, any first responder. Probably, I don't know if National Guard would fall into that, but anyway. So we have a quote from GMA, and I'm guessing, I don't know if this is just more for y'all's knowledge or for, that's part of our amendment to the budget.
For 2025, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be for 2025.
So we need to make a motion and then the budget, no?
Not necessarily, it's
Okay.
just more,
More
you know,
information.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't like this quote, we could try to find somebody other than GMA to go through, but I don't
Well,
know
this,
right
yeah,
offhand who else is even doing it, but.
so we already have to have insurance for firefighters, cancer insurance, and this quote is less. Is a lower annual cost to cover several more people, because it's not only covering fire department, it's covering police department as well. So
For the money and what it's doing, it looks very reasonable.
Yeah, suicide rates among, I know firefighters and some first responders, when children have been involved in wrecks is a pretty high. There's a pretty high rate on that. Alcoholism, stuff like that. So having something like this would probably
Exactly.
help put that to the side. There's always been a strong push. Every time something happens, they bring in peer counselors to the fire department. I know, I'm sure the police, law enforcement do that also. So this should just help cover help cover any time lost from work as a result of being diagnosed with PTSD. So we can move.
Do you need approval?
Okay,
Then I'll
take a
make
motion.
a motion and we accept this quote.
Okay. Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous? All right. And then, as we were briefly speaking about just before the meeting started, we have to have funds obligated for ARPA. We have 36,532 left. One suggestion that Linda came up with was, perhaps we would like to explore the option of replacing all of our meters with electronic meters for our water system. That would reduce one expense. Monthly expense from American Water, who's going around reading meters manually right now. And from a brief comment that Linda's made, it sounds like she'd be able to drive around town and get the readings herself.
That would take like, it'd take like literally 15 minutes or less to do it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
so
that
fast.
we
And
could
just like,
either that or we could,
Receiver.
mhm.
Yeah,
so something like that, or
and so we're looking at $6,000 more than what ARPA is roughly.
right.
Um,
We have some SPOS money still set aside for water. I'm not sure what that total amount is.
Mhm.
And you have to include the annual fee in our budget.
Right.
Yeah, so one expense would get offset by another. But
Will this also help get about leaks for nobody?
Mhm.
it might help.
It would, because if we know we're losing water somewhere, like we were before, I mean, it'd be, again, 15-minute drive through the city and you could pick up right away if something.
Can you shut a meter off?
Probably won't be able to shut off remotely. And it's only gonna have a small battery pack.
But it does tell you. It's 50-50 whether places have this or not. I mean, Gwinnett, for example, their water authority doesn't have them, but some of them, other cities have them, but it will tell you, the leak is there almost, and so your times are turned off.
Oh, so because it's digital, it's gonna be more accurate than what we have currently.
Yeah,
Well, it eliminates your meter reading errors,
Mhm.
reading it wrong, which happens sometimes. So it eliminates that and it does flag it if there's like 24 hours of constant use where, it doesn't stop at all. It'll flag it as a leak. It's not gonna show you where other leaks are if they're not metered leaks, but it will tell you, a lot of other good information.
And less likely to run into snakes.
yeah, right.
When reading meters.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if y'all read through the water report, but we had a negative loss. Which is weird. It's gotta be meter related somewhere. So
Gain water.
we gained 19,000 gallons. Now, Second Kings. Yeah, I know Second Kings, what was it, Elijah? Bless a woman with a pot of oil that never ended. Found out that happened here. So, yeah, 19,000 gallons but I keep having to take some time off of the pumps feeding the 20,000 gallon tank.
It's good.
So, we had a leak. I don't know if I put that in the report. I did. Someone on Hickory Nut Mountain had a pretty large leak for quite some time under their house. They didn't know about it.
Mhm.
The day they had that fixed, I started overflowing the tank. At the 20,000 gallon tank by a lot. So I think it's 5,000 gallons I went over. So I was able to back us way off. We're still have leaks, so don't mistake that.
With the hardest of that, you know, use it or lose it unless it is fully obligated, so you want to have your stuff. Anything else we'd have to approve, we'd want to get approved and have completely executed in there, but.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we use the ARPA to offset the cost of the system.
Okay. Is that? I didn't pay attention if that was a new quote or not. Okay,
What?
if that quote was new, if that was from.
No, this, yeah, I just got it.
Right there.
Okay.
And it does include the installation,
Oh, it does.
yes.
I didn't read that. Okay. Good.
I'll second the motion if that motion was made correctly.
Sure,
All
sure.
right. You never know.
Where you put it. All in favor? All in favor? Unanimous. We're
There you
gonna
go.
move
Yeah.
forward with that quote
I think it's
and
pretty
the
awesome.
project all the way. Good deal. All right, next on the agenda is the Rock House renovation, I believe. I'm gonna assume that Tanya's doing that. Wendell?
Well, you talked to Blake more than I did on the specific.
Well, go ahead and tell them about your visit together and then I can follow up.
Blake Rainwater came out and looked at the project and his few questions were, are you gonna split the top and bottom? And I said, yes, that's what I plan on doing. He wanted to make sure that you knew that in doing that, you're gonna have to make sure bottom is handicap accessible and so is the top, and that's gonna pretty much double what you're looking at doing. He also talked about, splitting it into different sections to do, that way. I think he could do plans, he talked about doing plans, but he wouldn't have to do very specific plans if he. That's something we're talking about breaking it up, that's the only question. But he's interested, said he'd do anything he can to help us with it. He's gonna come back out and we're gonna look and see exactly what we're wanting. Cause it was just kind of a quick visit, he was on his way to another meeting, but hopefully he called and spoke to her about a few things too.
So I did send in your conceptual plan and
Is that,
so he followed it up, you've all got it in your packet there, it's kind of an outline of. If they were to get involved, that's kind of the 1 through 6 items of how they would want to, look at it and move forward with it. He did mention, that the handicap accessibility of the top and the bottom is going to be a little difficult.
Did
And
he,
expensive, but
how would they have access to the top?
well,
Did he talk about that?
well, originally when we first went out and started looking at it with someone else, he recommended bringing, that's why we made the parking area
Yeah,
back behind, was to create a walkway from that parking area just straight into the top level in the corner on this side on the back. I figured that would be handicap accessible.
kind of like a catwalk.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah.
That's what was in my
That's
drawings.
what he was thinking.
Yeah, and that's what was in my drawings.
Why does he think that's so expensive? It's a 12-to-1 slope, it's not that. I'm just curious.
Well,
So you have something more elaborate?
no,
I mean, I know what you're saying, straight in.
it's just, should be almost.
It's already in
So-
place, it should be a great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't understand why I thought it would be.
But he may have put some of this out there without having seen what I had drawn up, because I did have a.
well, those comments were before he had seen.
Yeah, he was just talking about if you're splitting the levels, you can't access the top and bottom.
Yeah,
If you can access, but you can, yeah.
And, yeah, you got an 88.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll change it.
Yeah, that was before.
There'll be some
Yeah.
additional
And the
costs
ground-
that you gotta do above.
And I
but
think
not that
ground
much.
level is pretty much, with a few modifications, is pretty well handicap accessible. There's not a step up into the building, I don't think.
So I think the parking maybe is what had.
Parking.
I'm not-
Yeah, parking's gonna be an issue.
He said it was gonna take quite a bit of land movement to,
Okay.
and he said you can't have it on gravel, can't be a gravel parking lot for handicap accessibility.
Yeah, I don't, I don't think the intent was ever to leave that gravel, it's just to.
Yeah, I mean, that's-
For the construction as a landing.
For the
zone.
renovation, you'll
Yeah.
pave it.
Then after we're
Yeah.
done, pave it. So we could have limited handicap parking if we take that awning, the space under the awning and make that dedicated to handicap parking for the downstairs. Possibly, so stuff ideas to bring up from
Yeah,
there.
provided there's enough clearance. If there's a side door in the van.
Yeah, so there may be some
Maybe.
modification to that space too, so, yeah, but. Yeah, we'd have to get together, have a group get together, have them come into a council meeting and give us a.
Well, that's what he was wondering, if maybe that, if you all were interested in moving forward with them, which I mean, I know you don't have any kind of pricing to really look at or anything, but, he said, you know, if you could kind of get a subgroup together that could meet more frequently or at more convenient, you know, times when not necessarily once a month, you know, because we'll never get it done kind of thing. So, and in the end, also, if, you know, once construction comes up, having, you know, somebody or somebody's to be able to answer questions on the fly too.
So Bra is a consultant, not the architect, not an architect, right? Architecture firm that draws up plans.
Their design build.
Yes, so they're consultants.
But yeah, the whole, kind of the main point of this was to get it. To get it moving, but to get plans drawn up, specific plans, you know how that's gonna be, Craig. You need to get all the details you can out there if we're having to put it out to bid. We might not have to necessarily put it out to bid, we can break it into smaller chunks. And make different phases with it, so.
Does he base his fees off the value of the project?
He didn't say, he just said that if he were to do, he could do like a conceptual plan, it was gonna be like more like $5,000 for a whole big set of plans. He quoted a really high number, I mean, like $50,000.
And so if you had to get down to the specifics of what light bulbs, you know, everything.
Yeah,
You know, if you could break it up.
And he said, you know, for him to split it in different phases, it might be a little more expensive, but if that's what we needed to do to be able to do it that way, you know.
So it's just, there's no decision to be made here right now. This is just giving an update. on it.
Other than just some instruction, I guess, to us, like,
Okay.
you know, where do we go from here? I mean,
Is
it's.
he local or is he?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
One question I do have is,
He's a good guy.
was it communicated that there's asbestos in the floor? Does he know that?
I don't know.
Well, he hadn't got into anything. He's just,
Yeah, okay, well, so that's, he's gonna need to know that for a big,
yeah.
and that may be the first phase is just getting that out of there.
Can he break it down, a proposal into 3 phases?
So I'm sure he can now, like he says in here, I mean, until he gets a real clear picture of exactly, you know, what we want and, I mean, he can't really give us a price.
Well, who can give him that real clear picture? Is that Tanya? What is that?
But he's
Yeah, I had
asking for representatives.
For directions, so he's looking for direction, I guess.
Mhm. I mean, there's nothing to bid on at this point.
I mean, it looks to me like if we went through steps 1 through 3, we would be further along where we need to be with
Yeah.
them. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
and
I mean, I think we have to pursue it to at least get more information on the project.
Yeah.
And follow those first 3 steps.
yeah,
Right,
I need to send you guys the copy that I did last year. I think it was dated last year. It's basically an 8-page, just kind of bird's eye view of where it is now and where we envisioned it going at the time. With adding the bathrooms on the far end for public access and then splitting the levels into doing that stuff, so. Yeah, if we could at least, like Scott says, take that. And then make any adjustments or changes as we see fit and then get to step 3 at least.
Yeah, I think, deciding who the representatives are gonna be, getting together with them and coming up with a concrete,
A plan.
plan, and then,
And I can definitely be one of those, as long as I'm not the one trying to organize the meetings and getting together and doing stuff, that's where I'm. If someone says, hey, we want to meet at this time, then I can make, it. So.
I would be more than willing to help in any way I could. I think we need to move this along
I agree,
and,
it's been at least 2 years.
yeah, so it's time.
so if we don't have a quorum, we can do meetings whenever we need.
So anyone else want
Do we need a motion
Be
on
involved?
this?
to, no, we're not, when will we be committing money to the project?
It does look like we're really committing money until step 4.
Okay,
Even then, it's just determining a budget.
Yeah, he said typically, we would find a letter of intent. But that's
well, that's
not,
where we would need the motion would be to accept that letter of intent,
right.
so. I mean,
Go for it, Scott and Mike.
Well, and I think
Go
we need to
team,
keep.
go.
oh,
Tanya-
Tanya, Tanya, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Tanya,
Basically, I could just talk to him, I didn't have any kind of plans,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
didn't
no,
have any of that
I
that you
think-
had to give him.
here's the team,
Yeah, okay,
if it's agreeable, and then let's just move this.
and then if someone else wants to pop in, we still wouldn't have a quorum.
Yeah.
And they, just rotate in and out as they want to.
Right,
And again, I'd be more than happy to set up meetings and
Okay,
balance
And-
schedules accordingly.
good,
all right,
thank
then
you.
we will go ahead and move forward with that.
That's awesome.
All right, next will be LMIG projects. I'm gonna turn that one over to Craig.
Yeah, I've gotten with Linda, I haven't done the official paperwork or whatever. He's figure I give you, but there's a pipe over here at River Street that's starting to fail. It's been failing for years. We did some patches, but it's about to give in. Helena, the hurricanes will hurt it. They washed out around it and it started to cave in on the right edge. So we don't have a lot of funds, but I'm gonna put all of 2025 LMIG towards that project. So what it'll entail is closing River Street down for like a day to demo, take the pipe out, put a new pipe out, and put gravel back in, and then eventually pave it. But if we don't do it, we have another big hurricane or storm, and it totally washes out, then we're in an emergency situation, so we're kind of in trouble. So it'd be nice to have funds already allocated.
Doesn't this, I mean, am I wrong? Isn't this public safety?
Well, we have to identify an LMIG project.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's,
That's funds we receive. If we don't,
We get from the
we're
state.
not. It's not coming out of our,
Okay.
it's automatically applied to our account, we just have to assign a project to it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's a local badge.
Yeah.
Should be internal accounting.
Yeah,
Streets for safety.
and any overage over the LMIC or local match will come out of our road funds, so.
And we do have some, we do have T-Splosh
Yeah.
money, so we'll be able to cover some overage if we need to. Or match, so we need to get a motion to approve that project.
So moved.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Jimmy makes the motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right, and then the final item is the budget amendment.
so, the conversion with the new software is finally done.
Easy peasy.
Including
I
taxes.
never, ever want to go through another one again. It's been painful, but, the program is great. I love the program. It's the conversion that was a nightmare, just. They didn't understand exactly how we had things in QuickBooks and. Then when they put it in the new system, it wasn't in there where it needed to be, and then it's taken me. Working with them and then finally just having to really dive down into it on my own to figure out like what the problem was. And finally this week, finally got it all straightened out. Property taxes, yes, That's a different conversion and part of the same program, but they've been, we have to go through a third party to get the numbers from the county converted to something that the software company can use. So anyway, we ran, bills today, but there was an error on the assessed value was picking up the taxable value, and so anyway, we'll work on it again Monday. So they should go out next week. We're still waiting on Haversham's numbers. We have Ravens. So, but anyway, all of it hopefully will be next week, and then, they'd be due January 20th is what we're,
Just about to ask.
yeah, so going out a month late, gonna be due a month late too, so. So that's where we are on that. And then the budget amendment is based on, I didn't want to do the final budget amendment until I could see all the numbers in the new system combined with the QuickBook numbers to make sure we were within budget. So some things just had to move around, like, ARPA money gets transferred to water and then spent out of water. The auditor doesn't like it to come straight out of ARPA, so that's technical stuff. It didn't change anything. So some of it is just maneuvering like that. We got a little more in revenue. If you look at the first page, that's the changes in the revenues. So revenues, we had a little more in general fund than what we budgeted, but we had some things that we didn't get, like we didn't sell the car and stuff like that. So just changes on those items. And then the camera, the school zone camera fund, we had that money that was included in the previous budget amendment that we did. This is just, that was, we were using it from the fund balance of stuff we had already collected, and that just moved to actually this year's collections. And then the interfund transfer in from ARPA, that's money that was transferred from ARPA to water for those ARPA expenditures. And then the next two pages are on the expenditure side, so the general fund and the ARPA and the school zone safety and the water, those show the differences on those. And then the pages behind that, just because these are kind of, they just show the revisions of the lines that changed. So I just included like what the whole budget looked like when it was all put together. That includes the revisions. So you could see everything. Kind of like you would when you adopt it. I can go through as much of that detail as you want me to. I don't want your eyes to cross.
Please don't.
Is there any questions?
This is nice.
I love the new system. It's
Yeah.
great. I mean,
It looks great.
it's gonna be really.
Now it's gonna send the bills out. The tax bills, is it gonna send the tax bills out, or do you still have to do it?
I still have to do it. Yeah.
I know some companies that do stuff like that, they actually do all the calculations, they do the billing. And everything, so I didn't know if this one did it. So it's still stuff on the website.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, so I mean, unless there are any other questions, we need to get a motion to adopt, to amend the budget.
I'll make it.
So,
So Scott makes it, Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right.
And Linda, thank you.
yeah,
For
thanks
working
a lot.
terms.
She's been here late several times, till 6 and later, so.
I was there.
Sure.
Down there.
Yeah.
I drive by at 6 and see her car, and I kind of wave as I go back. home.
Yeah, you came in to get ice one day.
Yeah,
It's like,
well, you're on. I heard you on the phone, and I was like, I'm not gonna interrupt that. So I figured it was with them.
It's been rough, but we're finally good, so I feel good about it now.
All right. All right, next on the agenda will be mayor's comments. First is gonna be, many of y'all never met her. But last year, the state park brought in a new assistant manager, name was Christie. And she was living, out off of Gilbert Gate Road. And she was a great addition to the park. Last Monday, she was visiting her daughters in Colorado and was killed in a vehicle accident.
Yeah.
So our hearts and prayers, and I know that seems meaningless, but I just wanted to publicly say that we're gonna miss her. We're sorry for the loss for her family and the state park and everybody involved. It was an extremely tragic situation. So. Then the other item is that we have, the town Christmas party will be the first Friday, I think is that the 6th of December?
6, yeah.
Okay, so the 6th of December, we'll have our annual Christmas party, lighting of the tree, if I can get it in the lake. And, so just wanted to remind everybody.
And you've got plenty of, tinder for a,
We've got quite a bonfire
Oh, yeah.
lined up. Thanks
The
to
students love
Helene.
that. They love the bonfire.
it's gonna be a big one.
Thanks to Helene, we're gonna have a great. Carl will be pleased. He's getting an early Christmas present. Cause he wants to strike that thing off so bad. So,
And we'll still do the potluck, right?
it'll still be the potluck. I'm assuming the school will.
Let's go bring chili for
bring
everybody.
chili.
Yeah.
It's always good chili.
Delicious.
Yeah. And,
The rule is at the school, everybody can eat the chili. They can come over to our side, but we can't go over to their side.
yeah. It's good to have them here. It's nice to.
But they always, some people sneak them some stuff, I think. It's like the kids here, you have this.
All right, that's all I had. So if there are any public comments, Marcia and Susan online,
No,
Justin
she's
here
shaking her
with
head
us?
No,
no shaking her head?
Yeah.
No other public comments? All right, we'll move on. We do need to go into executive I need to get a motion to go into executive session for litigation.
So moved.
Jimmy makes that motion. Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous, all right. Hopefully it'll be pretty short. I can't get that door.
I know, yeah, we'll get it.
So. No, did she?
That was a couple of weeks ago, yeah. Yeah, it's probably been done at least 3 weeks.
All right, everything going? All right, we have
We want that.
come out of executive session. I need a motion to re-enter regular session. Jimmy makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, I've got one issue I probably should have covered on the attorney report, if you let me cover it briefly, out of order. I'll get you some more specifics on this, but the kind of new topic among local government lawyers is there was a referendum during the election to change some of the homestead exemption stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Look at wait till after Christmas. Yeah, no, we have to
So
talk about that soon.
yeah, and so with that, there is a method by which a local government can opt out. You have to do it by March. And so, we actually we put together, I didn't put it together, but another lawyer in our firm put it together for a different client. We sort of all stolen it. So I will get you some actual more specifics and stuff on what the bill does and doesn't do. But one thing I want to just kind of put on your radar there is the opt-out is. And I hadn't focused on this one too much because we weren't sure it would actually pass the election.
Didn't pass by the margin they thought it would.
No, it did not.
We were being told it was a shoe-in deal, slam dunk, 100% support statewide.
Yeah, it was
They
high.
got like 57.
Yeah.
55%. Something. With that, in conjunction with that, Lynn and I have met with, different people and there've been several conversations. We're waiting for some, numbers, some, kind of predictive calculations to come in on how this might affect us, financially. Because there's a bunch of stuff in it that, it allows for what's called what they keep calling a floss, but it's a floating local option sales tax. We would if we don't opt out, we become part of the, HB 581 goes into effect January 1st. Then anyone that wanted to in town could, within whatever provisions or whatever legal things they gotta do, can apply for a homestead exemption, and if that happens, then we have to roll the millage rate back. If the floss gets passed, yeah. One county seems to be able to get, don't seem to mind adding an extra penny to their sales tax every time it comes up. The other county rejects it, almost 50-50. So,
But it would freeze your tax assessment.
yeah,
To the two-rating index, whatever they decide that is,
right. So,
inflation. Well, there's not a percentage in there anymore.
it'll be tied to the index.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack and we'll probably have more information for you next month, or maybe throughout the month. Like I said, we're just waiting for some calculations to come in so that you guys can decide whether you want to opt out or not.
If we opt out, we have to have 3 public hearings, similar to a tax increase. So it all has to happen before that March date and,
Well, it has to be in the DOR's hands
yeah.
by that date.
So really, it will be by the next meeting, we've got to make some preliminary decision. We're not making that meeting,
By January.
to decide whether we're gonna start that process again.
I wish we knew how everybody voted in town and get an easier decision. On the referendum.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, it looks big and scary and, and quite ugly, the process and everything that we have to do.
Well, and the problem being so a city can opt out or county can opt out of the homestead, but if any of them opt out, then everybody's out on the floss.
Yeah, none of them can do the floss.
So,
So that makes you look like a real heel.
like, if we opt out, we basically take out
But
both.
there are rumors that there are at least one city in each county that's already considering opting out. But
Yeah,
they may not have all their information yet.
Somebody else could wipe it out for you.
yeah,
And we're also being told, and I haven't seen where this is written down, that theoretically, even if we opt out, our local delegation can go to the state house and force us back in. Through, whatever that's called. Not house rule,
Yeah.
home rule.
Well, the home rule would be for us, but I guess they could pass local legislation maybe, but
Yeah, that's what we're being told, local legislation.
they typically don't. If it's not supported by the local governments, but I can see possibly a scenario in which, you know, if one city opted out and screwed up the floss for everybody.
So. There's a lot in there, so they're gonna have to make some changes next legislative session anyway. So.
It's not,
But we have to know if we're gonna opt out before all that.
right, and it's not the most straightforward bill either.
even Department of Revenue was like,
Yeah,
Yeah, she went with us to a meeting with DOR.
Do you have options to opt out in the future?
No. This is
One
it.
time?
One time.
Wow.
And you can't just arbitrarily opt back in later.
So take
You have to get the
legislation to change it.
Local delegation have to do, yeah.
Or another referendum.
What we would have to do, from what I understand, I may be wrong. It's my understanding that if we were to opt out, we could then theoretically come up with our own, floating, homestead exemption. And then go to local delegation, be able to put us back in, but that would mean the floss we couldn't go for a floss for another year after that happened. So right now, everybody wants everybody to jump in with both feet. State seems to be trying to force us all in, and whether we want it or not. And make it extremely difficult to opt out.
it's one of those bills that morphed. It started with good intentions.
It was super simple. In fact, one of them was, Victor Anderson had proposed something. What he was trying to do was, in this region, he has several counties that no longer have access to Lost because they gave it to the schools. And then a few years ago, the state legislature said you cannot get it back. It has to continue going to schools. So, Representative Anderson was trying to get us access to one more penny if we wanted it. Well, then other actors were involved, and all of a sudden this thing. I mean, you want to talk about Frankenstein's monster.
it's, you know, it started out a little bit like the, you know, Florida called Save Our Homes Amendment or whatever, where it was intended to be a cap on, the valuation increases fluctuating and make it trend more with the market, but the idea being there was a cap of 3% on the assessed value every year. In exchange for that, so like right now, if you appeal your taxes and you lose, by virtue of having appealed it, locks in the value for the year under appeal +2. So people just perpetually freezing. So the new bill, it's okay, you gotta win your appeal for it to be a lock-in, but then also, you know, it gets frozen, it's a 3% increase, so you don't have as many appeals, because it's not one of those situations where your tax assessment goes from 200 to 400 a year. That was sort of the general concept, and then from there, it just kind of got to where it, I mean, I've read the bill once. Don't fully know what it says, but
I have to skim over a lot of it because it's not relevant to what I was looking for.
yeah.
But. Yeah, it's. Not an easy thing to understand completely, but so from my vantage point anymore. So be aware that's coming. It did pass. We didn't want to get too involved in it until we knew whether the constitutional amendment would pass. But it did, and here we are. And we'll try to get stuff to you as we can, and if we can't answer questions, we can probably find someone in here that thinks they can. So,
And hopefully we'll know more, as to what everybody else is doing too.
yeah, I gotta. Need to call the other mayors and kind of see what they feel like their councils are gonna do. Cause if it looks like there're gonna be several opting out, then
We don't wanna pass necessarily, pass it and then not be able to do the floss anyway.
right.
Cause right now, we don't even have a homestead, so.
Yeah, we would be forced into a homestead, this homestead exemption thing when we don't have one right now. And part of how this thing works, especially if you don't have flossed, is what's scaring me. Is having to deal with millage rates based on home valuation numbers, and if someone can lock theirs in, and then because the consumer price index doesn't always match the housing market. So if housing costs are going up, I don't know, but our expenses keep going up. That's why I've been trying to get us back to 6 mil and just stay there like we were for so long, even if we have to advertise a tax increase 1 year. Just because that's where we fit comfortably with our budget. Because insurance rates go up and electricity's gone up. All that stuff, so.
And it's, it might be good for, the people that get to claim the homestead, but the people that are gonna take a hit are the commercial people and the part-time people, and, I mean, they're gonna make up the difference, for sure. And like I said, I mean, you have to have a certain amount of income, so you may get a homestead, but then we have to raise the millage rate, so, or is it really?
Some of the numbers we're looking to get is what's the likelihood and how many properties would likely take advantage of the homestead, and it may only be like 5 or 10. So, because I think one county said that they don't even have 50% of their eligible properties. It was a really low number, really low percentage number. Of the eligible properties even have a homestead exemption.
Some people won't claim it, but.
Yeah, so anyway. Yeah, so you ready to start drinking coffee before council meetings, because it's gonna be long. These might be long conversations trying to explain stuff. Don't want you falling asleep. So, I'm sure Jimmy's up before any of us every day, so. Getting schooled and running, so, all right, is there anything else? No items? Don't need to know about, want to discuss, all right, then let's get a motion to adjourn. Scott makes the motion.
Second.
Mike seconds, all in favor. Let's go home. You can go hobble.
I need signatures from.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just got there more. Good to see you. Yeah.
Rick, take care. See you more. Mike, Scott. Brenda, thank y'all.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Take care. Don't be such a screw.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we're getting back for something next.
You too.
Oh, wait. You doing all right?
Very good, very good.
Everything else is good.
Everything's good.
Which game I'm going to last year?
I went to the Tennessee game last year in Gainesville, the guy that met
Right,
me
our
at
permit.
college.
Yeah.
We do.
Oh, okay.
Married a Tennessee grad, so this year. it was nice.
All right.
And we, got to.
You have to have, is that for everything, radar and LiDAR? or-
Yeah, They came
Everybody
yesterday.
says radar all the time, I'm like, LiDAR too.
We have to get it online now. So-
One of these years, probably will make it.
Cool.
That'll make-
That week.